What if I told you that your child's meltdowns are not bad behavior, not manipulation, not defiance, and not something you need to shut down as quickly as possible? If you're parenting a child with emotional dysregulation, DMDD, ADHD, or challenging behaviors, this might completely change the way you see those moments. Because what if your child's meltdown is actually a sign that they're overwhelmed, that their nervous system is overloaded, or that they don't yet have the skills to handle what they're feeling? And what if, instead of being the moment everything falls apart, a meltdown is actually the most important opportunity you have? An opportunity to teach your child how to handle frustration, disappointment, and big emotions in real life. So get comfy because I think you're really going to like this one. Ever feel like one meltdown turns your day upside down? Are you walking on eggshells with emotions and challenging behaviors? Need peace in your home? You're in the right place. I'm Jamie, mom of 7, professional counselor and parent coach. I've learned how to turn chaos into calm, stop meltdowns, and enjoy time as a family. If you're looking for effective tools, practical ways to connect with your uniquely wired child, and parenting tools that align with faith and family values, you've found it. So reheat that coffee, start that laundry fluffing again, and let's jump in. As I've been sharing these past couple episodes with you, you might be starting to recognize pieces of your own child in them. The meltdowns, the big emotions, the struggles that don't always make sense on the surface. And that's exactly why I'm so excited to share this with you. I'm getting ready to host a free online event from the Calm Connection Parenting Summit. It's called Calm in the Chaos: Real Tools for Raising Emotionally Intense or Neurodivergent Children. This summit is going to be a space where we're bringing together experts who truly understand what's going on beneath the behavior, those challenging emotions, so you can begin to make sense of what you're seeing, feel more confident in how you respond, and start creating more calm and connection in your home. And if you've been listening and thinking, this is exactly what we're dealing with, you're going to want to be a part of this. We'll be sharing summit and registration details very soon. So for now, make sure you head over to the website, calmconnectionparenting.org, and join us inside the Calm Connection Parenting Facebook group so you don't miss when registration opens. And mark your calendar for April 20th through the 24th. You won't want to miss this. Today's episode is part of our Summit Spotlight series, where we're sharing expert insights from speakers who presented at last year's Calm Connection Parenting Summit. These are experts who truly understand the emotionally intense and uniquely wired child. Today's conversation is such a powerful example of that. So let's jump into this conversation with Kirk. Here today and happy to have Kirk Martin, founder of Celebrate Calm and host of the Calm Parenting Podcast, somebody else who values calm as much as I do. He is one of the most sought after parenting experts in the country. He's worked with over 1 million families, and he's here today to help us turn our child's next meltdown into an opportunity for connection, learning, and growth. Thanks for being with us, Kirk. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you are helping parents?
Jamie, I am thrilled to be here because this is so hard with these kids, right? Like, we got into this because our son came out of the womb with boxing gloves on, like ready to argue. Because many of you have kids who are like little attorneys, judges, and cops all rolled into one. And you just try to get them to do one simple thing. It should be easy, but they won't do it. And they are stove touchers. They don't care about consequences. So my dad was career military, and I thought, well, I'll just use that fear and intimidation approach with him. Well, that doesn't work. So I finally decided, well, what if I changed myself? And so we started inviting kids into our home. So rather than do one-on-one therapy work, we had these Lego camps. So you'd have like 10 kids on the spectrum, kids with all kinds of issues, intense kids. And we teach them in the course of everyday life, hey, how do you deal with frustration and disappointment? And then we spoke a lot, and now we do the podcast, and I do summits like these, Jamie. So I'm super excited.
Well, that's great. It's so good to have you here. Now, I know you've worked with a ton of families, and I'm guessing many of them had these strong-willed, highly sensitive, or emotionally intense kids. What do you think is the hardest thing for parents when it comes to handling these big emotions and meltdowns?
I think one, we feel helpless, right? Because we love this child, and oftentimes they're melting down over something small that we don't understand. And then a lot of us have our own trauma. So when our kids get triggered, we get triggered. Some of us, not you, I know, some of us have control issues, right?
No,
So,
we don't have to admit that, do we?
right? So we want to control all the situations and you just can't. And then we have anxiety, right? About the future of like, how is my child ever going to succeed in school or life if they can't control their emotions and all? And look, there's guilt. Like, what would my parents say if they saw this? We didn't do this as kids. So all these different things assault parents during this time. But I want parents to know the meltdowns are normal and they're a huge opportunity to actually teach your kids and bond with them.
Oh, I love that. I mean, what a great way to look at a meltdown that feels so messy, to look at that as an opportunity instead. That's neat. You know, I want to go back to something else that you said. You said that you discovered that you needed to change. What made you discover that you needed to change instead of trying to change your son?
Because it just doesn't work to control the behavior of another human being. And the only person in life I can really control at any one time is just myself. And the coolest thing, Jamie, is what I found out is when I began learning to control my own emotions, my tone of voice, my body posture, my son's behavior changed more quickly because I was changing how I approached him. So instead of putting him in a defensive posture, I was actually inviting him into my world. And so I was modeling calm for him, right? Rather than yelling, you need to calm down right now, right? And my son one time said, apparently you haven't mastered that skill, Dad. You're like 35, right? And he was right. So, so it was learning, and it's just so much easier when I can control myself because now I can teach, and discipline means to teach. And when I slow my world down, I can see the real issue, I can problem solve. And in our words, I can lead my child to a calm place rather than just yelling at them to calm down.
Right. So that leads me to this question. When things are kind of going crazy, everything's coming apart at the seams, how can a parent de-escalate those situations?
Okay, I'll go through kind of 5 different steps, things that are important. The first one is counterintuitive because we all as parents want to say, oh, honey, you need to calm down. But there are no humans on this planet that like to be told, you need to calm down. It sounds kind of condescending and patronizing. You know what else I think, Jamie, is it's this thing of like, hey, your emotions are out of control. You need to stop it. And there's an embarrassment and shame that's going on when any of us are upset and melting down. So in my counterintuitive world, my first step is to give the child something they are in control of. Because most of us get upset because there's a perceived or a real loss of control, disappointment, frustration. So I'll give you 2 quick examples. We're working with this family and their son likes to fish. So in the moment, their parents would say, oh, Jacob, we just remembered this weekend we're going fishing. Could you go to the garage and organize the fishing lures? Because organizing things, kind of like cleaning your kitchen sink, gives you something you feel in control of. Maybe you're a busy parent and you're making dinner and you've got 3 kids and one is melting down. You could say, oh, I just remember, could you do me a favor? Because kids like to feel helpful in that moment. Could you go to the pantry, grab that spaghetti sauce? Could you get that top off for me? I just gave the child something he or she can do in the moment that doesn't involve getting control of my emotions. So that's the first step.
Okay, that's a great step. And I think you're right. Oftentimes it is our inclination to just be like, calm down, no, stop, calm down. We probably wouldn't like somebody saying that to us in our moment
No.
of duress or stress.
No. And then the
Yeah.
second step is, and this could be the first, is controlling yourself. And I'll just do two really quickly. Control your tone of voice because that yelling and screaming, we know that doesn't work. You need to calm down now. But I also don't really like the really sweet approach. Sometimes with an intense child, when we talk really sweetly, it sounds like we're not taking them seriously. So I'd encourage you to use even matter-of-fact tone. Hey, I can tell you're frustrated right now. I get that. Because what that says is, I'm in complete control of myself, right? I'm not going to react to you. I'm not going to freak out. That is very grounding for our kids. And in a few minutes, as we go through this example, I'll give you examples of kind of how that works in a real life situation.
I love that you say that about the tone of voice, though, because especially for children who have sensory processing issues, that can be a real trigger. You know, our son, for example, I had no idea that he was being triggered at school until we sat down to talk through a situation one day. And it was so interesting to me that he said something to the effect of, I know my teacher's mad. And I said, how do you know that? And he said, every time she uses the low, slow voice, I know she's mad. And it was working opposite in effect. You know, what she thought, like you explained, you know, super sweet, we may think is super sweet, but it can trigger a child who is already feeling emotionally worked up. It may feel condescending. It may be alerting them that, hey, there's a problem and I'm trying to get control here, rather than a calmness that is, like you said, matter of fact. You know, so I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that.
You know, it's interesting. Moms, wives, you'll be able to relate to this. This is like when your husband says, oh, honey, there's no need to be upset. You're just overreacting, right? And you're like, what? And it feels condescending and like you're not taking it seriously. And it kind of has this sense of your emotions make me really uncomfortable. So please stop them.
Oh,
But
that is
where
a
the
very
even
good point.
right? Where the even matter of fact tone says, I've seen this before. I've melted down worse than you in my life. I've got this. And so you're not screaming, but you're also not being too sweet. It's kind of right in between there. It's kind of the tone of voice, Jamie, that we use with friends, that we use at the office, which is just a very grounding tone.
Yeah. Boy, that's a great. I love the way that he shares that. Maybe you're listening and thinking, how do I manage my child's big emotions with this kind of calm? Well, that's exactly why I created the Calm Connection Parenting Program. And I'd like to share this. Parenting an emotionally intense child can feel complicated, like you're juggling meltdowns, defiance, and stress every single day. But it doesn't have to be that hard. Imagine this. The next time your child melts down, instead of spiraling into chaos, you know exactly how to respond with calm and confidence. Sounds good, right? Well, that's what the Calm Connection Parent Coaching Program is all about. In this program, I teach simple tools that you can use right in the moment. Tools that don't require hours of reading, expensive appointments, or complicated systems. I'll even show you ways to create calm in less time than it takes to reheat your coffee. Parenting with calm and confidence doesn't have to feel impossible. It can be easier than you think. Join me inside at calmconnectionparent.com and let's get you back on this parenting journey with calm, confidence, and connection. Parenting an emotionally intense child really can be a challenge, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm here to help and support you however I can. Now, let's jump back to this great conversation with Kirk where he shares the next 3 points with us. One, very good. Okay, share with us number 3.
So number 3 is we like the phrase motion changes emotion. So motion or movement is a tool to help a child calm down because what usually doesn't work is words. Lots of words get jumbled in the brain when a child is upset. But when I get them moving, I'll give you a quick one. When our son was about 11 or 12, so he's in those good tween years, and he would come at me with some attitude and he was upset. I had every right to say, young man, you're not going to talk to me like that. But one time our son actually said, just did, because he was a tough kid. So I learned, I said, hey, Case, and watch the tone here, Casey. I've noticed the last 43 times, right, you've used that tone with me. You were either frustrated, anxious, or hungry. So two options. You could talk to me like that way, but I know you don't like that and it doesn't work well. But if you want to grab some chips, I'll grab some salsa. I'll meet you on the deck. I'll help you with whatever you're struggling with. So that movement, instead of, you know what, we need to talk about your attitude right now, young man, like that always escalates. I gave him some movement. You go grab some chips. I'll grab the salsa. We'll meet somewhere else. So I'm changing the physical, emotional, psychological place where we are right now. So anything with like, hey, I can tell you're frustrated. Listen, I'm going to dump some Legos out on the floor. If you want to come build a spaceship with me, oh man, I'd love to help you out. I'm going to hold up a football. I'm going to go outside when you're ready. If you want to come play catch, I can help you out. So there's an invitation, Jamie, instead of just go to your room until your attitude is better. And I'm
Right.
not opposed to go to your room. If you need to do that as an intermediate step, do it.
Right.
But I don't want to send an upset child away from me. I want to draw
Right.
them to me because, see, I can help you when you're upset. I'm not afraid of your emotions. I can help you. And while we're building with the Lego blocks or playing catch or eating, it's a much more conducive environment to helping them calm down.
Right. It's being intentional and purposeful,
Right.
not just letting things fall apart at the seams, but hey, we're going to hold this together by bringing our best. And when you bring your best as a parent, they tend to kind of match that, don't they?
Yeah, they'll follow that.
Yeah. And I guess that's what we call the co-regulation, and it doesn't always come easy. Sometimes we have to practice it before it starts becoming more like a second nature. Is that right?
Oh, you're going to have to practice and you're going to mess up and know that it's okay to mess up, right? And so it's part of the process. And you even messing up and saying, hey, you know what? I need to apologize because I just yelled at you. I just reacted to you. I apologize. Hey, could you do me a favor? Could you grab that? Let's go meet over here. Let's go. You know what? One of my favorites, Jamie, is coloring because
Oh,
and this could be a 4-year-old, this could be a mom and a 14-year-old daughter, and there's
right.
attitude and it's tense. If you sit down at the kitchen table and you just start coloring or drawing, one, your child's going to look at you like, what are you doing? Right? And now you can just say,
Yeah.
hey, I didn't want to yell at you. Hey, why don't you grab a crayon and come and color with me? Now you have two people together drawing, coloring. Really, really important. And one of the keys here is no eye contact. I know everyone says, hey, when kids are upset, get down, look them in the eyes. With intense kids, I don't like eye contact when they're upset because when they're upset, there's usually a shame impulse. They're embarrassed. I
Yeah.
just threw something over something small and stupid. A lot of our kids will say, I'm dumb. I'm stupid. Why do I do that? So I don't like eye contact. So that's why looking down, coloring, driving in the car, we're building with Lego blocks on the floor. I'm not staring like we need to talk about your emotions right now.
Right. Oh, and so often you hear, look them in the eye, make them look you in the eye. And I really like that you make a point of that because it really can be a trigger to these emotionally intense kids.
And like you said before, Jamie, some of these kids are very sensitive. So
Mhm.
just think at that exact moment when I've lost control of myself, now someone is staring into what do we call that? The window into the soul.
So,
It is overwhelming. It can be intimidating in that moment.
mhm.
So look, nobody likes to be watched. when they're having a hard time, right?
That's
Like a man.
right.
Look, I'm a dad. I used to, and I still struggle sometimes, but I used to melt down over something little. I didn't want my family sitting there like staring at me. It's embarrassing. So,
Yeah.
so try that sometime. And then the fourth step, if you don't mind me just doing, is
No, that's great.
intensity. Again, this is counterintuitive. We're talking about intense kids. So let me give you a quick example. Let's say it's a son. You've got a son. He comes home from school and he wants to make a paper airplane. And so he does, and he flies the paper airplane. It doesn't fly the right way. So our intense kids will start crumpling up the airplane. Airplane stupid. I'm stupid. And every good parent wants to come in. Oh, honey, that was a good airplane. And your child's thinking, duh, if it were a good airplane, it would have flown right. And then they'll get some attitude. What I'd rather do is come in and say, you know what? If I were you, I'd be frustrated too. You put a lot of time into making that airplane. It didn't fly the right way. That's frustrating. See, that intense validation means I'm taking you seriously. What you put your time into didn't work the way you had pictured it. You're frustrated right now, and you're right to be frustrated. Now, what I didn't say, Jamie, is so go punch a hole in the wall or hit your sister, right? I didn't say that.
Right.
I just said, you're right in feeling frustrated. And sometimes the intensity of that validation is all that they need to know. Oh, so it's okay that I'm disappointed? Absolutely. All that tells me is you're conscientious, you care. And Jamie, this is really important for these really bright, intentional, purposeful kids that we have. They picture things in their brains and then they go to make it, but they don't always have the tools to create it. And then they get really frustrated,
Absolutely.
right? Instead of, oh, honey, there's no need to be upset. It's like, of course you're upset because you care about what you're doing. And what that tells me is you're a conscientious person who really wants to do it right. And I love that quality in you. See how cool that is to stay instead of like, why can't you ever control yourself? Why do you get so frustrated? Because the only answer to that is, I don't know, maybe I'm a bad kid.
Right.
But now I'm reframing it because we have a really strong-willed, intense son. And so what I wanted him to know is the reason you're intense is because you actually have a vision for things in life. You want to do things, you want to do them well, and you will take on bigger jobs that are harder, but you won't always be able to do them well. So you will be frustrated in life. I just want to teach you how to deal with your frustration, not how to not be frustrated, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think that's a great way to put it. And when we can relate it to real life, it's bigger than just this moment. It helps them see that you're not just being picky. You don't just want to get them in trouble. Our
Right.
son always uses that phrase, you just love to get me in trouble. Well, no, you're actually getting yourself in trouble when you make a poor choice. But he's just convinced I love to get him in trouble. And so I think, when we take the time to slow things down, we choose our words purposefully and we can avoid being that kind of trigger to them.
Right. Right.
Very good.
And I think, being able to read life and say, I get it. I know who you are. Like for me, it was easier because I said, Casey, have you ever noticed that I occasionally utter some words that I shouldn't be uttering? And he goes, yes, I know your swear words, Dad. And I'm like, that's because I'm intense. I want to get things done. And so we worked through that. And I was teaching him, so when you're 22, when you're 32, when you're 17, here's how you deal with the inevitable frustration and disappointment in life without punching holes in the wall, without being disrespectful to people.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good point. I love the way that you put that. Just and how important validation is.
Yeah.
I think that's a key point, that we understand what it is that's caused them that frustration. And I think you've worded that beautifully. Tell me, what's number 5?
Okay, space. Give them
Oh,
space. So that airplane example, I come in, yeah, I'd be frustrated too. listen, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I need to get something to drink. When I get back, let me know if you want some help, or we could problem solve a different way to do it. But notice the tone is very even. It's not like, I can't believe that you get frustrated over little things going wrong. And it's also not, oh, honey, it was a good airplane. I think we could do, right? Because so I'm just saying, hey, you're frustrated. And then I remove myself. It takes time for these kids to process. I am frustrated. I am, and if we're standing and watching them, that is so hard to calm yourself down while someone else is in the room talking to you. All you want to say is, could you give me a couple minutes so I could just process this by myself? So in a way, it's honoring them, respecting them to say, hey, you're going through something right now. I'm going to go do something for a couple minutes, give you some space and come back in. And I found with our son and all these intense kids, when I just give some space, it's like they calm down themselves. And
Right.
I'm the same. Look, for all of this, Jamie, you know this. Treat your kids kind of the way you want to be treated when you're having a rough day,
Right.
right? You give space, you validate. Like when my wife's having a hard day and I say, "Oh, man, it's probably overwhelming. It looks like you took on too much and now you're overwhelmed." I can see the relief on her face instead of me mansplaining, right? Like, well, honey, if you would have done this differently, like,
Have you made your to-do list?
yeah, if you would have made your to-do list and did it logically as a man does it. No, the validate. So I'll give you one quick example of like our son. So our son's in the kitchen yelling at my wife. And my typical response was to come in and say, you don't talk to your mom like that. How many times have I told you? You go to your room. And I created all this drama. But instead, I walk in and I said, hey, Case, I can tell you're a little frustrated. Listen. And I give him options. If you want to come outside and play catch, love to do that. You want to get some chips and salsa? Look, I'm a little bit hungry. When he was older, he was always hungry. He still is, actually. And I'd say, hey, I'm going to be in the car in 3.5 minutes, come out. Because I like interesting time limits, by the way. 3.5 minutes. Because the specificity is grounding of like, why did you say 3.5 minutes? And sometimes it gets them out of that
Wait a
reactive mode.
minute.
Wait, why 3.5?
All of a
But
sudden they're in their math brain, right?
yeah, it takes them into a more control because 3.5 minutes, well, that's between 3 and 4. I'm going to be in the car. We can run up and get a couple tacos or we could get a smoothie. In all those cases, I was inviting him to be with me and we were doing something. It wasn't, hey, we're going to sit down and talk about why you can't emotionally regulate yourself. Like, that's embarrassing. But that conversation happens after we've calmed down and we're driving, going for a walk. All those things, there's an invitation, and I alluded to it at the beginning. What I really wanted my son to know is when your world is out of control, mine's not. Mine's not. You can come to me when you're frustrated and say, Dad, I'm really angry because my friend did this or the teacher did this. And I'm like, okay, sounds like a good reason to be frustrated. So what are we going to do about it? And now I'm problem solving with him and I'm teaching him. I'm not teaching him not to be upset. I'm teaching him how to handle frustration and disappointment because it's going to happen every day of life.
Yeah. I love that. I love the tips that Kirk shares. And I think that's such a powerful shift. This is just part of what Kirk shared with us last year. If you're interested in hearing more of what he said, as well as the other speakers that we've been sharing in the last few weeks, you're going to want to attend this year's summit where you can have a chance to hear last year's sessions as well. Now, it really is a powerful shift that he talks about. That your child's meltdown isn't something you have to shut down or fix right away, but instead it can actually become a moment of connection, learning, and even growth. And I know in the moment that's not always easy, but even beginning to see your child through that lens, even that can start to change everything. If this conversation has resonated with you, if you found yourself thinking, yes, this is exactly what we're dealing with, I want to invite you to join us inside the Calm Connection Parenting Facebook group. That's right. That's where we're continuing these conversations, sharing insights, encouragement, and practical support. And don't forget, it's also where you'll be able to first hear when registration opens for the upcoming summit called Calm in the Chaos. You won't want to miss it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. So join the group and let's connect. That's it for today. If you enjoyed today's episode, would you take a quick minute to follow and share it with a friend who's looking for tools to parent those big emotions? And don't forget to join the Calm Connection Parenting Facebook group. This is where I can connect with you and offer support as you walk this journey. All right, I'll let you decide whether to fluff or fold that laundry now. But I'll meet you back here next week. Until then, keep calm and parent on.